Alright, so real quick, I recorded this video a week prior to all the new announcements we got during Sonic Central and more specifically the State of Play. A lot of folks are thinking that Movie Shadow might actually be taking up that mystery spot that we see on the Japanese website, but it has yet to be completely unveiled. It's possible that will still be the placeholder. That makes a lot of sense to me, but just in case it's not, we're still gonna have fun with this video. And hey, let's be a little bit greedy. Maybe they'll bring Ben Schwartz in to play Movie Sonic as part of the movie bundle. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, back to your regularly scheduled video.
The next Sonic game is also a re-release of a Sonic game. It's a new and old experience all in one, and that, of course, is Sonic X Shadow Generations. Smart call, Sega. Most of your fans probably have search history littered with the term Sonic X Shadow. Now, Sonic, quite famously, has fumbled the spin ball a few times when it comes to re-releases. Sonic Origins launched in a less than optimal state with some questionable new design choices, and we don't really need to talk about Colors Ultimate again. And long before that, we have Adventure DX and Sonic Genesis. But we also, in that time, got Mega Collection, and before all that, Sonic Jam. The Sonic cycle has been a long memed term, but after a while, a seasoned Sonic fan can get a general vibe for how well a Sonic game is going to do prior to launch, and I personally have a good feeling when it comes to Shadow Generations. Now, that opinion could be one of the many poorly aged things I say today, but for real, this feels a lot like Bowser's Fury in terms of release, and I know I'm not the first to make that comparison, but Sonic Generations is widely regarded to be one of the greatest Sonic games ever made, certainly one of the greatest 3D games, and now it's back with a couple of fun new gimmicks, and I do have a couple things to say about them a little bit later, but I think it's clear that Shadow's side of the story has everyone's attention, and for good reason. I expected nothing more than a level pack and a boss, but it seems we're in for a proper full game experience. Considering all the levels, powers, and the hub world that we are aware of, it's not much of a stretch to say that what we have here might be a meatier experience than vanilla Sonic Generations, and since that is considered a full game on its own, this technically makes Shadow Generations a full game on its own and Shadow's second fully fledged game. It's like if Sonic & Knuckles released but already had Sonic 3 attached to it. That's pretty impressive, and what's even more impressive is that this makes this a proper sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog 2005, which was at one point one of the greatest embarrassments to this franchise. But Black Doom is back, and all the early 2000s edge you could ask for now that Shadow has a symbiote that can sprout wings. I am cringe, and I am free. Obviously, this is all thanks to the upcoming movie Sonic 3, and Sega has wisely leaned in heavily with all things Shadow. And while I have gone on record many times saying that Adventure 2 doesn't quite hit for me like it does for a lot of other fans, I have always loved the character of Shadow. And even if this game is revisiting a lot of Sonic games I never properly vibed with, I'm genuinely excited to see all of this come back and in some cases get another chance to really shine without all the jank and sloppy localization holding it back. I never thought I'd be so excited to see Sonic 06 content, but here we are. In fact, I'm really hoping we get to play around with some enemies that never really got a chance to shine. I'd honestly be surprised if the likes of Mephiles and Infinite don't show their ugly mugs in this game. And maybe with some time travel shenanigans, they might even get a chance to escape their grisly fates, giving them a shot at returning sometime in the future. As I said before, we already know that Black Doom plays a central role in this game, and Metal Overlord shows up as a boss. I'm still holding out for a proper Neo Metal Sonic boss fight, but hey, the Overlord fight at least looks fun for a change, so I'll take what I can get. This is already so much more than I was expecting it to be, and I'm honestly excited for all of this. The hub world looks great, and with these new powers, it looks like it's going to unlock in a more natural way than what we got in Frontiers. This is a proper step up from what we got in that last game, and I'm glad to see that Sega has not abandoned some of those fun ideas. I do have some mixed thought on Frontiers overall as a finished game, but that said, there are a lot of great new ideas there that I wanted to see evolve, and that's certainly the case here for Shadow Generations. We have a more compact hub world that seems to unlock with more Doom powers you unlock. A natural progression I really like to see in game design like this. The Doom powers themselves look like a lot of fun, being better incorporated than Wisps ever were, even if one of those powers just makes him a big ugly Venom Wisp. The animations and level layout also look to be a step up from the last game as well. I won't know for sure until I have the game in in hand, and it will be interesting to see how these levels compare to the brilliant designs found in vanilla Sonic Generations, but we'll save all of that for when the game is actually out and I can give you a proper analysis. All I can tell you is, from what I've seen, I've been incredibly impressed. I'm genuinely super excited for all this. But what's even more exciting for me is the storytelling potential in everything. Vanilla Generations was designed to be a celebration of Sonic's history. Nothing more, nothing less. And it succeeded in that sense. But a lot of hardcore fans, myself included, wanted a little more substance in the story. I mean, this is a shorter, stubbier, mute version of Sonic. Can we explore how he got from that design to this leaner design? How do all of his modern friends react to that? Where are their classic versions? This game established that these two Sonics were not simply the change in art direction, there was a proper evolution from one look to the other. All that said, I'm fine with the story being as breezy as it was. This is Sonic after all. He isn't exactly the nostalgic type. He's always zipping from one adventure to the next, so it only makes sense that his own personal history would be a zippy, streamlined experience. He's all about having fun and going on grand adventures, and that's what Generations was, a big celebration of that life. That said, I can't help but hope that they took a little bit of time to spruce up the script here and there with a little bit more flavor text. I mean, they are going back and adding Chow to all the levels. Certainly wouldn't hurt to have Knuckles say an extra line here or two, and considering that Shadow is a boss fight in the original Generations, and we know that Shadow Generations happens concurrently to Sonic's story, can't help but wonder if Sonic and Shadow are time traveling at the same time and just end up fighting even though they both know better. That would be really damn funny. They're just fighting for the sake of fighting. I like that kind of rivalry between the two of them. But yeah, even if they don't touch it up, I'm fine with vanilla Generations the way it is. That said, Shadow should be the complete opposite of that when compared to Sonic. Sonic has a life filled with fun and adventure, stopping here and there to smell the flowers or help out those in need, but he's not the type of guy to sweat the small stuff or linger in the past. Shadow, on the other hand, is defined by his past. He had a whole game trying to come to terms with it and move on from it. His story would not be a fun, breezy adventure. It would be a living nightmare. And in turn, hopefully they take this chance to further explore who he is as a character and how he interacts with the world, especially since they're so lore-focused after Sonic Frontiers. As we see in the trailer, Shadow not only revisits levels from his personal adventures from the Sonic games, but he's also going to be exploring a level from Sonic Forces, which takes place after Generations, and he will be on Chaos Island, which of course we didn't learn about until Sonic Frontiers. That means that Shadow was already aware of some things that would be happening in the future if this game does indeed take place the same time as Generations. Of course, Shadow was largely absent in those two games. It's possible that he doesn't have any direct interaction with anything that could help him prevent Eggman taking over the world from Sonic Forces. I don't know, but I would assume that this game having a level here means that Infinite will show up. Chaos Island's a little bit more interesting. It's likely that it's going to be right before Sonic shows up or at the same time Sonic's on another island, some nonsense like that. But I think it'd be interesting if they took the chance to really use that time travel and take us way, way, way into the past and onto Chaos Island when the ancients were still inhabiting it. Maybe when the end shows up to attack all the Starfall Islands and Shadow has to navigate all that. Or at the very least, when Eggman first showed up with his robots and his giant Death Egg robot was taken out. As we see in Frontiers, that robot is already useless. So having a giant battle between Eggman and ancient technology in the background as Shadow's zipping around would be a lot of fun. Whatever the case is, I wasn't a big fan of the environments of Sonic Frontiers, and this is a chance to really spruce it up, especially in an isolated environment like a zone. They can focus on set pieces in the background while you're navigating the level. Whatever the case, I am very impressed with everything I've seen so far, and I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy it. They might not get as deep in the story as I would like, but you never know. It certainly looks like they're going to dive a little bit deeper into his history with that 3-episode animation that's going to be coming out soon. We know that Ian Flynn penned that script, and while we don't know who has penned the script for Shadow's side of the story for this new release, I'd be surprised if he wasn't at least consulted. There is at least one other thing I wanted to mention though, that being this mystery extra character that was teased in the Japanese website for Sonic X Shadow Generations. On Sonic's side, we see that modern and classic Sonic are playable characters. On Shadow's side, obviously, Shadow is there, but we have one empty space, and we're not entirely sure who that's supposed to be. I don't have it in front of me. Pup, hopefully you can provide this information.
What could possibly go wrong?
Sorry, I'm recording this a little bit quickly and off the cuff, but I have heard that Shadow is technically the only playable character in Shadow Generations, so a couple of theories have been swirling around. They could be lying about that, and maybe Emerald is a second playable character, or maybe this is going to be a spot saved for Maria or Black Doom potentially. Not playable, but pivotal in whatever this narrative will end up being. But I want to throw a crazier idea out there, one that might be fairly obvious but ruffles a lot of quills of Sonic fans every time I mention it. What if that space is held for a classic styled Shadow? Now, this is likely where the video is going to age the worst. I don't expect a classic Shadow. Sega has been very, very weird about keeping those two kind of designs separate, and in turn keeping certain characters on the classic side and those on the modern side. And I have stated in my own Shadow video that Shadow was designed with the modern sensibilities in mind. I don't think he works quite as well in classic miniature form. To me, Metal Sonic and Knuckles were great counterparts to that original classic styled Sonic, and Shadow is a better counterpoint to that leaner, green-eyed, smirking son of a gun that we all know and love. But all that said, we do still have that blank space, and an obvious slot to fit in there would be a classic Shadow, as we already have classic Sonic on the blue side of things. Now, go with me for a second here. If they end up doing that, it could just be a fun little something that they throw in there. It's not canon to anything, just a cute little design that goes along with whatever else is going on, just because, yeah, we have two Sonics, makes sense to have two Shadows. But, and this is going to make a lot of people mad, what if they attempted to make it part of the canon? As we know from Shadow's story, he was cooked up in a lab thanks to Gerald Robotnik with some help from Black Doom, who obviously is back and still a part of the equation. But as I said in my Sonic 3 trailer analysis, they have alluded to Shadow just being an alien, meaning that maybe he was a creature all on his own before running into Gerald. Now, we don't know that for sure, but if they were going to go that direction, what if the games were going to try and mirror that sort of origin? We are going to have access to Gerald's notebook with some DLC, and as many people have pointed out, it's likely that we're going to finally have it confirmed that Gerald was inspired by Angel Island's murals. I think that was way back in the day thanks to some Japanese strategy guides, but they haven't really touched on it since. I think this game is going to finally confirm that the Sonic and Eggman mural inspired Gerald Robotnik to create his own hedgehog after the failure of the BioLizard, who was also probably inspired by the Perfect Chaos mural. All of that has been discussed to death by hardcore Sonic fans. None of that is new. It's just going to be nice to have that properly finally confirmed. And I know a lot of folks get tired of having everything tie into everything else, but I do think it's kind of neat that Sonic and Eggman are so intrinsically tied through generations. Hey, how about that? What an interesting title for Shadow's new game. But hear me out here. What if Gerald needed a template to work off of? What if he needed a naturally born creature to work on instead of just growing a rat in a lab? What if there was a naturally born black hedgehog roaming around 50 years ago and it was just a stubby little guy? What if Shadow was his own person before all of this crazy stuff with Space Colony Arc, and this game takes him on a journey to rediscover this long lost part of his past, an identity before Gerald and Maria? Heck, let's take it a step further. What if Gerald had his own big silly boss design, like some other big robot, and classic Shadow had to battle him in the ancient past, and the Echidna tribe witnessed it and they made that into a mural? What if that is depicting something that happened in the past as opposed to predicting the future?
Sorry to interject, Nick, but it's worth noting that this mural also has wings too. You're seeing the vision, you're putting two and two together.
We do have a Perfect Chaos mural, but that wasn't a prediction. That was an event that happened. Perfect Chaos is the reason the island is in the sky. The only part of this lore with the Echidna tribe that has anything to do with predicting the future is that one mural. And maybe that big nasty in the mural isn't Eggman or Robotnik related in the slightest. Maybe it's some other big nasty monster that Shadow saved them from. I don't know. You could very easily take that one theory and just have Shadow show up in the past and take out an Eggman robot that also showed up in the past. There's a lot of time travel in this game. And again, I doubt they're gonna go that wild with it. There's only so much time for the game to play around with, and again, it's going to largely focus on things that have already happened in Shadow's story. This game is going to serve as an introduction to the character to new fans who are going to be excited for more Shadow content after the movie. And again, Iizuka has made it very clear he wants classic and modern stuff separated, so it's likely none of this is going to happen. And again, you can come back in here and say this video aged poorly, but it was just a fun little idea I wanted to throw out there. I know a lot of you folks consider Shadow's story to be scripture and you don't want it toyed with at all. I don't follow that same dogma, unfortunately, for a lot of you. I think it'd be fun to be toyed around with, and I don't think any part of that really takes away from his connection with Maria or his motivation in Sonic Adventure 2. It's just a fun excuse to show off a shorter hedgehog. But no matter what happens, I think I'm gonna have a great time with all of this new content because I already love Sonic Generations and it looks like they're going to make a great game even better. But hey, let me know what you think and we will see what happens next month.
Black Doom.
Before we head on out, I do have to thank the folks who support me over on Patreon, and that includes Kyle Winter, Cirrus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan, Sonic 2 Blue, Josh Strider, Trey Nobles, Hatsworth, Tiny Jericho, Ginger Bob, Jack of All Spades, Tristan Trapp, Meekers, Bo Bennings, Quote, Resident Fanboy, Miles the Prower, Singer J199, Sam Webster, Fish Flop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Jonathan Dobbs, Clover Chats, Chad, Mr. SP, Cecil the Glade, The Dark Neon, Stefan Plakanica, 3 Monic, Graham J. Hall, Lenny X, Wayne is Boss, Lederick, David 20 Covers led a Rickroll to restore the helium. Trash Baphomet, That Pie Remain, Enerjack 5, Grayson Coniger, Xerxes the Renegade Jin, Ken K, Ven 101, Paxton Bisbee, Sindarin 7, Bunny in very fancy font, well done Stevie, Twilord, oh no, I've used up all the helium, what am I meant to do now? Man, you are like 3 chapters behind David, get it together. Eric Delgado, Crimson Rose, Roxas the Cat, Godzilla, Makuta of Salt, Gleam the Anomaly, Alexander Watson, Neil Gampa, Conan Kudo, the Lex the most powerful ship in the 2 universes, Kaido Prower, Spearmint, Duo the Cat, Omega Man 21, Penn Adelaide, Daza S, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stand, one more Sonic Robot, MT Mecha, I started reading a book on helium this week, couldn't put it down, Gob, the RSI, OGreatGames.com, Sailor Sebensol sending out an SOS from SS Sanjik, Salem Hollow, Siegfried Wilder, Naburnyard, I hope I'm saying that right. And KB. I am always humbled to see folks popping in here and old names still popping in to help keep this channel up and running. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you again very soon. Toot toot, Sonic Warriors.